Welcome back to another episode of SmoothBrainEDH, where we make the smoothest plays with the biggest brains. The SmoothBrain crew realized we hadn't played any cEDH on the channel in a hot minute, so we decided to change that. I won't be describing every nuance of every deck, as that is extremely difficult to do, but links to our deck list and deck list primers for each deck will be in the description if you'd like to learn more about them. First up is Jason and the partner commanders Thrasios, Triton Hero, and Vial Smasher the Fierce. This deck, also known as Curious Control, is a 4-color deck devoted to incurring card advantage to his commanders, playing a controlling role until it can symbol its win cons. He keeps a hand with Underground Sea, Scalding Tarn, Fellwar Stone, Eldritch Evolution, Counterspell, and Tainted Pact. He put a Windswept Heat to the bottom due to his mulligan. Next up is Matt on Tayam, Luminous Enigma. This is an Absent deck that plans to combo out with Devoted Druid to make infinite mana, mill his entire deck, then assemble his win con from there. This deck also runs ad nauseum as a value draw engine. His starting hand is an Ancient Tomb, Command Tower, Fetid Heath, Misty Rainforest, Mana Vault, Wall of Roots, and the Sylvan Library. Our third player today is Chandler on Magda, Brazen Outlaw. This is as close to Dwarf Tribal as you can get in cEDH. He even plays 5 copies of 7 Dwarves. The general game plan is to create infinite treasures with Magda through some shenanigans with Clock of Omens and making Magda an artifact. He starts the game with the Gemstone Caverns, Great Furnace, Paradise Mantle, Liquid Metal Torque, Cloudstone Curio, Reverberate, and Red Dragon. Last is Ethan on the partner pairing of Krark and Sakashima. This deck is the epitome of pushing your luck, hoping to flip coins to copy spells in a non-deterministic combo deck. He keeps a hand with a Flooded Strand, Soul Ring, Talisman of Creativity, Brainstorm, Mental Misstep, Deflecting Swat, and his London Mulligan is a Dualcaster Mage. We're about to hop right into it, but before that, go ahead and leave us a comment on who you hope will take home the win. While you're down there, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. We post gameplay videos every week, and new episodes are our podcast every other week, so you definitely don't want to miss any of it. Links to the deck list, social media, and our new Discord server are in the description. Our channel is also partnered with Dragon Shield, so if you're looking to pick up any new sleeves or other match-related products, check out our affiliate link in the description. Now, on to the gameplay.
Ethan will win the die roll, but Chandler has pre-game effects, putting in Gemstone Caverns and exiling a Red Dragon. Ethan plays his Flooded Strand as land for turn and immediately cracks it for a Volcanic Island. He'll then tap it to cast his Soul Ring, and then tap his Soul Ring to cast his Talisman. The turn is then passed to Jason, who plays the Scalding Tarn as land for turn, and then passes to Matt. Matt will play Misty Rainforest, and then pass to Chandler. Chandler starts out with his Great Furnace, taps for 2, and casts Magda. He'll then cast Paradise Mantle for 0 mana, and then pass the turn to Ethan. Ethan will cast Krark on his turn, and then pass to Jason, who will stop him on his end step and fetch. He'll find a tapped Breeding Pool, and then move to his turn. On said turn, he plays an Underground Sea, taps for 2, and casts Fellwar Stone. The turn is then passed to Matt, who fetches on his end step, and he finds a Bayou. Now on his turn, he'll play his second land, which is a Command Tower. He'll then cast his Sylvan Library, and then pass the turn to Chandler. On his turn, Chandler plays a Mountain as land for turn, and then equips Magda with the Paradise Mantle. He'll then tap for 2 mana and cast a Liquid Metal Torque. The turn will then be passed to Ethan, who starts off with a Fiery Islet. He'll then tap for 4 mana and cast Sakashima, trying to copy Krark, and it'll resolve. He'll then cast a Strike It Rich, and he'll get 2 Krark triggers. And let me explain real quick how Ethan will visualize those triggers for us. Each of them will be represented by a face-down Pokemon card. If he wins the flip and gets a copy, he'll turn the card right side up, and that will represent the copy. If he loses the flip, he returns the original spell to his hand, and the Pokemon card goes away. And in the end, he wins both rolls, so he'll get 3 treasure tokens from this. He'll then sacrifice one of the treasures to cast a Brainstorm, and he'll get 2 more Krark triggers. He wins the first one, so he'll get to draw 3 and put 2 back. And on to the second trigger, he wins again, making him 4 for 4 with his Krark triggers so far. He is very lucky. So yeah, he gets to resolve 3 copies of Brainstorm, and has an absolutely loaded hand. And wanting to play some of that hand, he'll cast Springleaf Drum, and then pass the turn to Jason. And Jason will just cast a Soul Ring, and then pass the turn to Matt. And on Matt's draw step, he'll resolve a Sylvan Library trigger, and decide to pay 4 life to keep a card. Now in his first main, he'll play a Centaur Garden as his land for turn. He then drops a Carpet of Flowers, and when it resolves, he'll jump straight to his second main phase, and make 2 green off of it, because Jason has 2 islands. And he'll immediately use that 2 green to cast his Wall of Roots. He'll then put a counter on Wall of Roots to cast a Mana Vault, and then attempt to pass to Chandler, who stops him on his end step, to tap Magda for a mana, and make a treasure token when she becomes tapped. Chandler gets excited at his top deck because it's one of his favorite cards. He taps for 5 mana and casts a Goldspan Dragon. When Magda becomes tapped, he gets another treasure token. After this, he moves to combat and swings Goldspan at Matt. When it attacks, he gets yet another treasure. After this, Chandler will pass the turn. Ethan will start off with a Training Center as land for turn. He'll then immediately tap for 3 and cast a Spell Seeker. It'll resolve, and Ethan puts a Mystical Tutor to his hand. He'll then cast said Mystical Tutor and get 2 Krark triggers. He'll lose the first roll, which will cause Mystical Tutor to bounce back to his hand, and then he'll win the second, letting him search his library for an instant or sorcery and put it to the top of his library. That card will be Jeska's Will. Then, wanting to try to draw it and cast it this turn, Ethan will cast an Overmastery and get 2 Krark triggers. Let's see how he does. He'll lose the first trigger, and then the second one as well, so unfortunately no cards are drawn. Wanting to just guarantee the Jeska's Will gets to his hand this turn, he recasts the Overmastery. Triggers. He'll win the first one, so he gets to draw the Jeska's Will. He'll then win the second one as well, drawing 2 cards when the copy and the original Overmaster resolve. And after this, the turn will be passed to Jason. And Matt will stop Ethan on his end step to put a counter on Wall of Roots and add a green. Now on his turn, Jason will tap his Sol Ring to cast an Arcane Signet. He'll then tap for 2 more to cast Thrasios, and then just passes the turn to Matt after that. Matt stops at end step again to activate his Wall of Roots. Now on his turn, he won't pay to Sylvan Library, and then adds 2 black with Carpet, then plays Fetid Heath as land for turn. He'll then add a mana with his wall, tap for a white, and then use the 2 black to cast his commander, Tayam. He'll then tap Mana Vault, remove 3 counters from his wall, and activate Tayam's ability. He'll then hold priority and cast a Vampiric Tutor. Chandler is the first on priority order, so he decides to sacrifice 1 treasure, which adds 2 mana now, to reverberate it, trying to get his own Vampiric Tutor. Ethan doesn't really want either of them tutoring, so he'll respond to Chandler's reverberate by casting Mental Misstep, paying 2 life, to counter the Vampiric Tutor. Krark triggers. He'll lose the first one, returning the misstep to his hand. He'll also lose the second one, meaning no mental missteps will resolve, but he can keep paying 2 life until it does. And that's what he's going to do. He pays 2 more life to cast Mental Misstep, Krark triggers. On the first one, he'll lose again, but on the second one, he'll win, meaning he gets to counter the spell and still has Mental Misstep in hand. Let's move down the stack now. Reverberate will try to resolve, but loses its target, so it fizzles. And then Matt will resolve his Tayam trigger. He'll mill an Overgrown Tomb, a Crop Rotation, and a Dark Confidant. It's pretty obvious which he returns to the battlefield, the Dark Confidant. It'll enter with a Vigilance counter. After this, the turn is passed to Chandler, who plays a Wasteland as land for turn. He'll then move to combat and swing Goldspan Dragon at Matt again and Magda at Ethan. Chandler will get 2 treasures from Magda being tapped and Goldspan attacking. There's no blocks, and then Chandler will pass turn. Ethan will Mystical Tutor on end step though. Krarks will trigger, and Matt will respond by adding a counter to his Wall of Roots, tapping for 2 more, taking 1 to his land, and then activating Tayam again. He'll mill Windswept Heath, Chrome Mox, and an Abrupt Decay, and then return the Windswept Heath. We'll then move to resolve the Krark triggers, and Ethan loses the first one. Onto the second one, he loses that one as well. He'll then sacrifice his last treasure to recast it, Krark triggers. He'll lose the first one, and then win the second one, getting a copy of it. With the copy on the stack, Chandler decides to attempt to abrade Ethan's Sakashima. Ethan will respond with a Deflecting Swat, Krark triggers. His first roll is a little off camera, but it is a 6. So he'll make a copy of Deflecting Swat and choose to change the target of Abrade to Jason's Thrasios. Jason will respond to the copy by attempting to counterspell Chandler's Abrade. Ethan really wants Thrasios dead in case Jason has a Fierce Guardianship, so he casts his own Fierce Guardianship targeting Counterspell. Krark triggers. He'll win the first one, making a copy of Fierce Guardianship, still targeting the Counterspell. The copy resolves, and Jason's Counterspell is countered. He'll then win his second roll, making another copy of Fierce Guardianship. He has to have a legal target for it, so he has his copy counter his original. Moving down the stack, his Deflecting Swat copy will now resolve. He'll then win his last Krark trigger, making another Deflecting Swat, and he'll just have the targets be the same, Abrade going at Thrasios, so redundancy. Abrade will then resolve, killing Thrasios, and Chandler decides with Mystical Tutor still in the stack, he'll Wasteland Ethan's Fiery Islet. And finally, the Mystical Tutor copy will resolve, and he'll go find a Twin Flame to the top of his library. And finally, after that very interesting stack interaction, it is Ethan's turn. With 2 Krarks out, Twin Flame, and a Jeska's Will in hand, it is very likely he wins this turn if nobody has any interaction. And so he'll start off by casting Twin Flame targeting Sakashima. Krark triggers. He'll lose the first one, bouncing it back to his hand, but he'll win the second one, making a 3rd Krark. He still has a colorless mana floating from his Sol Ring, so he'll tap for 2 more and cast Jeska's Will. As he casts it, he'll choose both modes and Matt as his target since he has 5 cards in hand. And then 3 Krarks will trigger. Ethan wins the first flip and will copy Jeska's Will. Matt decides to respond to the copy by casting a Worldly Tutor to get 1 less card from his hand. And he gets the mana by adding a counter to his Wall of Roots. Ethan could Mental Misstep this, but Matt says it's really just to get 1 less card in his hand and 1 less mana for Ethan. So Ethan will just let it resolve. Matt will put Collector Roof on top of his library in hopes that he gets to his next turn. The copy of Jeska's will resolve, and so Ethan will make 4 red, and then exiles Mana Confluence, Dockside Extortionist, and Phyrexian Metamorph from the top of his library. Moving on to the second trigger, Ethan will win again, getting a second copy of Jeska's Will. He'll make 4 more mana and then exile Scalding Tarn, Archmage Emeritus, and Force of Will. He'll then move to his last trigger and win again, making yet another copy, and when it in the original resolves, he'll have made 8 more mana, and then exiles Mystic Remora, Command Tower, Wooded Foothills, Arcane Signet, Invoke Calamity, and a Mox Diamond. And with Jessica's Will now going to Ethan's graveyard, that Invoke Calamity is absolutely terrifying. Ethan will then cast Twin Flame again, targeting Sakashima, 3 Krark triggers. He'll win 1, making another Krark, and then lose the other 2. He'll then cast Twin Flame again, 4 Krark triggers. He loses 3 of the 4 flips, but that still nets him another Krark. He'll then play Command Tower from exile. He'll then cast Dockside Extortionist from exile, making a total of 13 treasures when its ability resolves. And it's at this point Ethan sees the line. He can very easily cast the Archmage from exile, and he still has that Mystical Tutor from earlier. All he really needs to do is get 2 Mystical Tutor resolutions, stack his triggers right, and then put Brain Freeze and a bounce spell on the top of his deck. He would then just need to cast the bounce spell at his Archmage so he doesn't draw out, and then start Brain Freeze looping. He's even got Invoke Calamity to ensure that he doesn't fizzle out. And so after explaining his path to everyone, he asks if anybody wants him to play it out in case they have interaction. Unfortunately, nobody does, so everybody will just concede. So congrats, Ethan. You are the winner of our return to cEDH. Well guys, what'd you think? That was a pretty interesting game with a lot of interactions from everybody at the table. It really showcased how powerful Ethan's Krark deck was, and when it has free interaction, it is scary. And I know what some of you are probably thinking. Chandler could have potentially won the game with a Clock of Omens line the turn before. But Ethan was bluffing a lot of interaction, which he actually had, and with 2 Krarks out, I don't blame Chandler for just trying to get his own copy of Vampiric Tutor. But anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you thought down below. Were there any lines that you saw that were questionable or should have been taken? While you're down there, check out the deck lists and our social media links. We've been posting a lot more on Twitter and Instagram, so if you like Magic-related content in your feed, be sure to give us a follow. And if you're also looking to purchase some Magic-related products like playmats and sleeves, be sure to check out our Dragon Shield link down below. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a smooth day.